Thank you all again for attending today. I really appreciate it. This is the second part of our first LinkedIn training, and this is the first time I've opened up a training to our sales teams. And on the last call live, I had 33 people collectively who took those trainings. So I'm looking forward to great turnout for this particular training as well. Now, I haven't changed since last week, except that I have seen the Mississippi River. Thank you, Lacey, for being gracious and sharing Baton Rouge with me. Other than that, I haven't changed at all. And for those of you who haven't met me before in person, I'm so excited that we'll be meeting in person at the Director of Sales, Marketing, and General Managers Conference in Dearborn. So, woohoo! So today we're going to talk about an overview of LinkedIn lead generation, just some very basic concepts about it. We'll go into your network and interests, so whoever you are currently connected with and the interests that you currently have, because you want to work with what you've already got before we grow from there. We'll talk about making new connections, and we'll also talk about, of course, the biggest thing that we'll be talking about today is LinkedIn search. And in closing, we'll kind of just do a recap of some of those concepts, and we'll also have opportunities. If you're already using LinkedIn, I'd love to hear how you're using it, and I know our other teams would as well. And then any other questions that you may have after that. Are there any questions before we continue? I'll take that silence as a no. Okay, so just as a quick overview, you may have seen something like this before. I like to think of a lot of the things that we do as cycles. You know, we have revenue management cycles, we have budgeting cycles. Our year is cyclical. LinkedIn and the process that we follow for connecting with people is much the same. So you start off with making a particular connection and you'll grow from there. So once you've made a connection or you engage with a group, you'll do some investigation. You get to know a little bit more about that person or that group, and perhaps it leads you to other groups or other influencers or other things that you should be engaged with. Barry may be involved with a hotel sales and marketing group that I didn't know existed, and I go, oh, that would be really cool. I should engage with that. And that's when you begin networking. So you've done your investigation, you see the sorts of things you think you might like to be a part of, and then you become a part of those things. Once you've done that, you have the opportunity then to reach out and search further for additional people. So I'm separating here the difference between networking through groups and interests and networking through people. So then you would be able to use LinkedIn searches and connecting with other people for lead generation. And then, of course, once you connect with that person, the cycle starts all over again. Very simple. The basics of connection on LinkedIn is that you must have a commonality. You can't be, if you're a third connection on LinkedIn, so meaning Teresa knows Barry, Barry knows Mark, Mark knows me, I can't connect with Teresa because she's too far away. We need to have a closer connection than that. So whether we have a group in common or a person in common, you have to have something in common to be able to directly connect with someone. You can be introduced. If you don't have a premium LinkedIn listing, you're limited to 5 introductions for the lifetime of your existence on LinkedIn. So that means that I can ask Mark to introduce me to Teresa if he's directly connected with her and I'm not directly connected with her or have a common connection. And you can also connect through search, and we'll talk about that today, of course. Are there any questions before we dive into network and interests? Okay, so our network and interests include, our interests are the companies, the schools, the groups, and the influencers that we follow. And our network is the actual other people that we're connected to. Hi, who did we have just join the line? We're having a little bit of background noise coming in. Whoever just joined the line, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. Thank you. Okay, and I'll be sure to take roll call in just a little bit if I missed logging you in. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, your current connections are specifically the people and the other profiles on LinkedIn that you're connected with. You can use your network, and by network I mean both the people that you're connected with as well as the groups and other interests you're connected with to find other things. So an example here is I have some things in common with Mike Barrett. We have skills and expertise in common, and we have a group in common. And I may be able to go to his profile and see any other groups he's connected with that might be beneficial to me. And it'll also see the other people that are similar to him that I might want to connect with. You can also see anybody that is second connection, so meaning that it will show all of the people that Mike is connected with, and that means that those are people that we have a commonality. Mike is our commonality, so I may be able to connect with them directly as well. So now we would move on to making those actual connections. Are there any questions before we continue? Okay. So, of course, there are a number of ways to connect. We'll go over them today, but the first is to import contacts. And the nice thing about that is you're connecting with people you already know. And again, like we talked about when I said you want to work with what you've got, if you already have those connections out in the real world, out in your business life, bring them to LinkedIn, and that'll allow you to connect with more people. The more people, the more strategic, let me be clear, the more strategic interests and people that you are connected with, the easier it will be for you to connect with other people because it gives you a point of commonality. You can request introductions. Again, we talked about that, meaning that you only have 5 introduction requests available for the entire lifetime that you're on LinkedIn if you have a basic LinkedIn profile. You can also connect through groups, and this is a little screenshot here of a group that I'm a part of. It shows you all of the members, and you can actually go through and see the names of all of those people and their titles that they have, and you may be able to connect with them that way. And then, of course, you can connect with people directly. And LinkedIn is all about networking. So you'll see it as you go through the LinkedIn site. There will be little sections that pop up saying, here are some recommendations. Do you know these people? Someone you may want to connect with. So those are out there all of the time for you to see. And then with LinkedIn search, the basics are you can do some simple searches around people, jobs, companies, and within all of those searches, you can narrow those down very specifically. So people who are currently a director of sales and marketing, people who are currently a CEO in a medical industry, and use some different qualifier. They use the Boolean qualifier, so you can use and, parentheses, quotations, all that stuff, and we'll talk about that when we get into it. So you are able to narrow all of those searches down. And there are also advanced options that you can take, and I'll show you what are available in those advanced options. The thing to point out about that is that some of those become available if you are a LinkedIn Premium member. And we'll go over what that means because it may be a viable option for you or somebody on your sales team. Okay, are there any questions before we dive into demonstration? Okay, so we're going to kind of backtrack and talk about the basics of LinkedIn. So we may have a common group, person, school, etc. So we want to find those networks and interests. So this is my main LinkedIn page, and the way that I find the people that I'm connected with is right up here on LinkedIn, right up here on the main menu bar. I have my network, and it shows you connections, add contacts, people you may know, and alumni. So that's my network section. I want to go to interests, where I can see companies, group, Pulse, SlideShare, Learning, and ProFinder. So SlideShare is and I talked about this during the last call, SlideShare is basically a PowerPoint presentation that's web-based. Learning is lynda.com, L-Y-N-D-A, and ProFinder is another tool that LinkedIn utilizes. So for my interest here, I can just click into any one of them, whether it be companies, groups, or Pulse. Companies is exactly what it sounds like, companies that I follow or are connected with. Groups are groups that I am a part of. And Pulse is any influencers on LinkedIn, and by that I mean people who write their own content for LinkedIn. They write their own articles on LinkedIn, and they become part of LinkedIn Pulse. So I'm just going to use groups because it's a good place to start. So when you go into groups, you have this section up here for My Groups, which will show me all of the groups that I'm a part of, groups that I'm in, and you can see the conversations. Once I click into any of those, it'll show me the members here on the right-hand side. So if I hit 718 members, all of these people are here. So I have the option to send a message to them if we're not closer connections. And I can also, that would be the way that I would be able to kind of get a hold of them. So I can click into them. You can see I can view profile or message them. He's a third connection, not a second connection, so I can't connect with him directly. Same with Erin here. She's a third connection, so I can't connect with her directly, but I can view her profile or message her. And then up here on the top, so we just got into a group. We took a look at the members. I may want to connect with some of them or message some of them, but I also do have the option up here to discover other groups. So LinkedIn is going to make recommendations for me based on the groups that I'm a part of, the industry that I'm a part of, the passions that I have listed on my LinkedIn profile, and it's going to give me some recommendations. And you'll see here, it will also tell you the number of people that you know in that particular group. So there are some similarities. LinkedIn hospitality professionals. Top hoteliers, that sounds like fun. National Restaurant Association would be great. Event planners and coordinators would be perfect for some of our sales teams. So again, that's a great way for me to have a network of people around me. So that's groups. Other interests would be done in the same way. So I would go to company page. It's going to give me all of the companies that are here. It shows me any of the companies that I'm a part of and the ones that I'm following. And I can see in the bottom right-hand corner it says companies you may want to follow. And this will again bring me to a recommendations page. So it brings me to my search and it automatically puts in some influencing companies. And we'll visit this later because this is a search. So we will visit this later, but groups is one of the better ones to start off with. And of course you can follow companies as well. So groups from my interest section. And that kind of covers that. Are there any questions about connecting with groups? Okay. So now I'm going to visit my network. So I can see the people that I'm connected with, and I'm going to do a little bit of investigation with them right now. So it's just bringing up the links that I have, the people that I'm connected with. And the first thing that it does, it gives you the option to stay in touch with people because they have something going on. So you'll notice here Beverly, who was our corporate director, or I'm sorry, our director of sales and marketing at the property that we had in Texas, is the Sheraton San Antonio. She's got a new job, so I can say congratulations to her if I'd like to. And you'll also notice that I have these great little connections that come up here, these recommended connections that I have that come up from LinkedIn. So down here below this, I see all of the people that I'm currently connected with. And let's just search by first name. So Adam Fowler. He's our Director of Guest Services at the Henry, which isn't true. He's actually now the Assistant General Manager at the Holiday Inn Express downtown. So I have the option here. It's going to show me people also viewed. Joseph Shermer, Matthew Mao, me, Adam Greiner. We have some things in common: field of study, company, skills and expertise, and causes. So we have a lot of stuff in common. And this is a great tool when you are going to be reaching out to somebody kind of as a cold, it's not really cold, but if you're generating leads, it gives you a good idea of what you've got in common with them. So you can see all the skills he's got, the education he has, the connections he's got, the groups he's a part of. And this would be a place where I'd go and see if there's, let's say I have a client that I am already connected with. They're an association manager. They sit on the board of an association and I want to drive more association business. I can go to their page and they may be part of a national association group or a special meeting planner group that might be great for me to be a part of. You can also see any of the business pages or the LinkedIn influencers that they might be connected with. And it also gives you, again, people that are similar to Adam, so that I may want to connect with. So you can kind of take a look through and see all the people that are similar to Adam. And if there's second connections, I should be able to connect with them right there. Any questions before we continue? Okay, so we covered interests. We looked at groups and discovered other groups that we may want to connect with. We took a look at our network and kind of scoped out some of our current connections to see people that we might want to connect with, as well as groups we might want to be a part of. Now we're going to add contacts, and this is very simple to do. So we've looked at our current network and our current interests, and we want to grow from there. So there's a couple of things we can do. Add contacts, which is bringing in any contacts from your outside email service provider. So the trick with this is you would need to have them saved as contacts. So if you're just kind of in Outlook, if you're just kind of using it as an email address that has been remembered, add it to your actual contacts, and it'll be able to pull from there. Now, it may be a little bit tricky. I haven't had to do this with an email service set through one of the brands, so I'm not sure what security settings they may have in place, but generally speaking, you would just connect it. It'll pull all of the emails through. It'll either search for them on LinkedIn, and that's the first step. You can connect to them right there on LinkedIn, or if they're not part of LinkedIn, you can invite them to join, and you don't necessarily need to do that. But at the very least, connect with people you already know. And I'm not going to go through that process, but it's very simple. If you've ever imported contacts before, you connect to it. It brings you over to the email service provider. You log in and offer the permission for them to view those email addresses, and it populates a page showing you all of the people that you may want to connect with. So that is importing your email contacts. Now, if I go back to my network, I have this little People You May Know tab. And this is a great place to go on LinkedIn, because the nice thing about this here is that I don't have to, when you're on these search pages, you don't have to worry about adding any additional information when you're trying to connect with someone. So if I just hit connect here, I'm just trying to see who I know. Okay, so I'm going to connect with Lisa Richards. All I need to do is hit connect, and it's automatically going to give me some more recommendations. Now, alternately, if I went into his profile, let's see Sean Harrington here. If I went into his profile right here and I hit connect, it's going to populate a tab asking me to say how I know him. So if we haven't done business together or been classmates or colleagues, it can be a little bit harder because LinkedIn is going to bounce that back and say you should connect with only people that you know. Alternately, if I'm on this page and it's somebody that I really want to connect with, that I want to say something more than just I'd like to connect to your profile on LinkedIn. Let's say you're trying to reach out from a sales lead perspective. You may want to go into their profile directly and hit the connect button so that you can customize the message that goes out. Because otherwise, all it will say when you hit that connect button is, I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. So again, to kind of differentiate that, two different ways that you can connect with people. By just hitting a connect button in search or on recommendations, it's just going to send a generic email to them, a generic message asking to connect. If you'd like to personalize that, you can go through their profile, and once you're in their profile and you hit connect, it's going to ask you to say how you know that person, and you can customize the email. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions about that? Okay, so we've talked about importing contacts. We've talked about directly connecting with people. Now we're going to ask for a recommendation. So let's see. This shows you how many people we have in common. But if I try, I don't know if I can find anybody that I don't have in common. So I'm just going to do a quick search of people, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in future, but I just want to, if I'm a third connection with somebody, if I'm a second or third connection with somebody, I have the option here to get introduced, meaning that it's going to show me the people that we have in common. So if I click on that, it's going to show me the people that we have in common. So we have Charles Baldwin in common, I guess? No? I guess that is who we have in common. So you would say get introduced, and it's going to bring you over to the messenger, and you would message the person that you have in common, and it's going to ask you, you are basically just going to say, hey, I'd love for you to introduce me to Adam Dyes, so that we can get connected. So again, this is a great tool for you if you are already connected with somebody in an industry that you want to expand, in a market that you'd like to expand, whether it be association or whatever the case may be. So let's say you're connected with another association leader, and you are indirectly connected with somebody else in another association. You may ask to be introduced by that person, say, hey, I would love to get a hold of, the person in charge of your national chapter to see if I can help them at all. Would you mind introducing us? And you can do that through LinkedIn, but if you're connected with them off of LinkedIn, of course, you can always send them a personal email and say, hey, I'd love for you to introduce me to this particular person. I'd like to connect with them on LinkedIn and all that stuff. Any other questions about that? Okay. So we're going to go back to group, which we had seen before. So we're going to go into groups, and you can see those other members, and it's going to show me who I'm connected with. And we already touched on this briefly. But if I go into my groups, so hospitality industry professionals worldwide, I'm just going to click on this group. It's going to show me all of the members that are a part of it. And I have the opportunity, as I continue down here, to, these are all people that I am currently connected with. Once you eventually get to somebody that you're not connected with, you can send them a message, and you can say, I'd like to connect on LinkedIn. And that's a perfect way to do that. Or, of course, you can, again, go into their profile here, and you can message them directly here. So that's kind of the way that you'll get that connection. So you click into their profile, and you can connect with them that way. So again, you will go through colleague, classmate, we've done business together, friend, other, and if I say other, it's going to ask you for their email address. But you can also say that you've done business together or that you're friends of some kind. And if you're using the friend option, you can say, hey, I loved your discussion that you posted in this group that we're a part of. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. So again, we talked about importing contacts from an outside email service provider. We talked about directly connecting with people. We talked about how to connect with other members of a group and how to request an introduction to somebody. So that covers making those actual connections. Are there any questions or anything like that before we continue? Okay. So what we're going to talk about next is LinkedIn search, and it's very simple to find. It's right up here at the top of the page, this magical little search bar up here. There are lots of resources that are available, and we will touch base on them in just a moment. You can search a number of different things. So you can look for people, you can look for jobs, you can look for companies, groups, universities, any posts that come up on LinkedIn or inbox. So we're basically just going to be focusing up on the top here. and we're really going to be looking for people, but we'll use the Advanced tab. And the reason why I like to use the Advanced tab is that it gives me all of my additional search options right off the bat. So I'm going to have you take yourselves off mute if somebody wants to make a recommendation for a search they'd like to do. Your market, your location, if they're a type of business you're trying to draw in.
Emily?
Mm-hmm.
Cindy, can you do something like in the pharmaceutical line, like
Pfizer.
Merck or Pfizer, or something like that?
Certainly. So right here on the left-hand side, this is where we add all of our search options. So I'm going to narrow it down by people just to help out a little bit. You can narrow it down by relationship. So I want to do second connections because that means I have more of a likelihood of being able to connect with this particular person. I'm going to search a location, so you can add this, and I'm going to do somewhere in the Cleveland area. And it's also going to give me, so it will give you a countdown of how many people you have in that area. So as you start narrowing that search down. So you can do current company or industry. So I'm going to choose industry, and I'm going to say pharmaceutical. So I have narrowed down to the Cleveland, Akron, Ohio area, second connections in the pharmaceutical industry. And it's going to give me right off the bat just a list of people that are second connections. So we have pharmaceutical sales rep, we have HR director, we have another pharmaceutical representative, we have an assistant director of business development, a director of wholesale accounts, territory sales, specialty sales representative. And the reason why I chose second connections for this time around is that it's people that I can connect with right off the bat. I don't even have to go through another person or kind of schmooze that at all. I can just connect with them directly. You can expand that. You'll notice that it only came back with 18 hits, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a little bit of a narrow list. So you can do anybody who's members of the same group you're a member of or third connections and greater. And this is, again, this is a great example of why it's really helpful to have your current network, your current interests be as strategic as possible, because if I'm trying to target pharmaceuticals, I, Emily Penfold Daly, am going to have less second connections in pharmaceuticals than somebody who's working that market all the time. Likewise, if you're moving from one location to another, which we have a lot in our industry, you know, if you're new to a particular market, you want to start connecting with people that are in that market that are going to be a part of the customer base you're trying to reach out to. Cindy, is there anything else you want me to dive into with this particular search?
Stephanie has an additional part of it.
Okay.
Emily, is there a way to then search the job titles amongst the people that are my second connections to find like people who are in charge of trainings and events or?
Yes. So you can do that. Let me take a look. Well, you can do it by current company. So if there's a particular company you're trying to target, you can. But you can also do, we're going to select more, and we're going to do jobs, or rather titles. So I'm actually going to search for it up here. Is there a particular job title that you'd like to focus on?
Well, I like training coordinator, you know, different people that have that in their title. That way we know they're in charge of meetings.
Okay. And what's your zip code?
44131.
So I'm going to do within 100 miles, even though that seems really far. So right now I'm searching for training coordinator, and I sorted it, I put it back up in the top search bar here, but it's searching for everybody. I'm going to do location again. Oh, I don't want Cleveland, UK. I lied. So, training coordinator, Cleveland, Ohio area. So right off the bat, it's giving me everything right now. So I'm coming up with some jobs that are in there as well. I really want to do people though. Give me this. So I'm going into people and in my advanced search, and this is advanced, but you don't have to be LinkedIn Premium. This is where I'm going to put in training coordinator. And you can say current or past training coordinator, location, and I'm sorry, the zip code again?
44131.
I'm going to choose within 100 miles. And now I can narrow it down even further if I want to choose an industry. So training coordinate Charles River Laboratories, Benvenue Laboratories, Cleveland State University, past training coordinator, regional sales manager, past personal training. Okay, so this is going to give you everybody that's got all that information. And again, we did current or past. You can select current if you'd like to narrow it down and just only choose people that are training coordinators. So some people have everything set to private. You can't see their name or anything like that, but you know that they're from Benvenue Laboratories. So Alexis Cross looks like a good connection for us. So again, because she's not directly connected with us, we can only send her a message. And that is generally a premium feature if they're not directly connected to you. In order to send an email, you have a limited number that you can send unless you have a sales account on LinkedIn. But does that kind of give you an idea of how you would go through that process?
Yeah, no, that's very informative. I'm just thinking, if I don't have their, if I'm not a direct connection, and it says send an email, I know it's asked me before, do you have their email address? So without that contact or the ability to send an email, I'm not really connecting with them through LinkedIn, correct?
The workaround for that, again, is to opt for a LinkedIn Premium listing. But the benefit then is that you have a name and a company. And you can fall back on your traditional sales methods where you find out the phone number, call the company, and ask to connect with Alexis, who's the training coordinator.
Right, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because we always, I mean, I'm never going to say use this and not use traditional sales. This is meant to marry with that. So sometimes you may not be able to connect with somebody over the phone. They say, oh, they're not available. No, they're not accepting calls right now, whatever the case may be, and you can't get to them. You can find them on LinkedIn. You may be able to connect with them that way. And again, like we talked about, the better your current network and interests are, the more likely it is that you'll be able to connect with her. So think about this. Now you make your connection with Alexis, whether it be you know, on the phone or on LinkedIn, but inevitably you're able to connect on LinkedIn. Now you're connected to her network, and she's in the pharmaceuticals industry, and she's a training coordinator. So you've now opened yourself up to those networks as well. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, what else? Let's try another one. So we did pharmaceuticals. We were looking for training coordinators. Are there any other areas of business that people are trying to track down or open themselves up to right now? Nobody's trying to drive business at all right now?
Emily, can we try colleges, universities?
Certainly.
Lehigh Valley.
Is there any position in particular or part of the universities that you'd like to get a hold of, Mark?
I would say Alumni Association,
Okay.
Alumni Development.
Okay, there's actually a cool one for that. You can actually find alumni. It brings you to the search as well, but it's a cool way to get a hold of it. It's going to give you whatever school you're associated with at that time, but you can change the university. So search, is there a particular school that you might like to connect with?
Look at Muhlenberg, M-U-H-L-E-N-B-E-R-G.
Okay, Muhlenberg College. So this is going to give me students and alumni. It's going to show me where they work. There's almost 15,000 results here.
Yeah.
So this is all of the alumni. It tells you what year they graduated, if they have it listed on their profile, and what they're doing right now. So that's a great way to be able to connect with them. It also is going to show you the number of connections you have in common. So it's always going to start off by giving you people that you can connect with directly right off the bat. And of course, you can go through the same process of connecting with them if you are a colleague, a classmate, if you've done business together. You can just say friend if you want to. That's kind of the loophole there, to be able to say friend. But you don't just want to cold call people. Really think about it. Somebody brought this up on our last call about about profile optimization, that there's sometimes people will reach out to them to connect, and the verbiage in their messaging makes it very clear that it's just exclusively for sales. So really try and get that hook there and find out what you have in common with that person. So if you click on their profile, again, it's going to give you some more of that information. So you can see what experience they have, people who've also viewed, how you're connected, things you have in common. So these are kind of good ways to warm up your introduction before you go straight for it. And this is all, I mean, this is your area of expertise, you know, this more salesy side of things, but do the research, do the due diligence before you reach out to them, and it'll make that a lot easier.
Right.
So that's how you would get connected with those alumni themselves. That being said, you may also be looking for alumni associations, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to search for all, and we're going to search for alumni association. And it's going to give us everybody and everything who has alumni association in their title. And we can do the same thing that we did for Cleveland, where we're going to look for anything in the Allentown, Pennsylvania area. So this is going to give you all of the people who are part of the alumni association or have that in their profile somewhere for different organizations. So Kappa Kappa Psi, graduate student of at Lehigh University. So this kind of gives you a breakdown. And again, it's the same process as it would be before. If you are connected in some way, you can send them an email, or now at the very least you have a name.
Right.
Does that kind of help out? And you can also be specific if you want to see if they are, you know, if they work at Lehigh University or go to Lehigh University, or whatever. You can select the schools you want to focus on. You can do it that way. So we're going to we're going to reset the search really quickly, and we're going to go at that another way. So we're going to do Allentown area again. And you can do current company. So that would be kind of another option for you if you want to add another company. So what was the name of that school again?
Muhlenberg, M-U-H-L-E-N-B-E-R-G.
Okay, so we're going to do Muhlenberg College. And this is giving us everybody who is currently at Muhlenberg College. Which, again, is
currently
a great...
Currently
not currently at, but currently associated with. So this is an Alumni Affairs and Career Services. So Natalie Hand, Assistant Vice President of Alumni Affairs and Career Services at Muhlenberg College. Perfect for us, right? This is a perfect person for us to be connected with. Associate Director of Alumni Relations at Muhlenberg College. Perfect. Associate Director at the Career Center at Muhlenberg College with a focus on technology and alumni relations. Perfect. So these are all people that, you know, it's not just people who are at school it's also people who are working at company.
Right. Great.
Any other questions about that? Okay. So we've done Cleveland, we've done Allentown. Lacey, is there anything from Baton Rouge? Let me just go over to my search window and see. Director of Operations for Universities. Okay, so let's check that out. So we're going to search for, I'm going to do my advanced search again. I want to do title and Director of Operations. I'm going to search for that. And current or past is fine. I'm going to choose Baton Rouge. We're just going to do 70802. And instead of doing a current company, I'm going to get rid of Allentown, Pennsylvania as well. Instead of doing a current company, I'm going to do an industry, and I'm going to do education. So this is another way for us to kind of get into that. And let me do Baton Rouge here. Okay, so I have my Director of Finance and Operations. Let's do current. So Assistant Director, Bursar Operations at LSU. Director of Operations, Risk and Emergency Management at LCTCS. And again, because we chose education, it's not just going to be the universities. This is also going to be colleges and high schools and other grade school. So Director of Enrollment Operations at Baton Rouge Community College, which is potentially a great person to get in touch with because obviously we have, you know, if they have people coming in who are looking to be professors or people who are coming in that are looking to be students, you know, you may be dealing with some trouble there. Director of Operations at University of Phoenix, Director of Operations at MTS Tutorial Services, School of Cosmetology, all of these other fun things. Does that answer your question, Lacey? Is there anything else you want me to cover? Okay, cool. She said that's great. So again, you have the opportunity of going into it by the job that they have, by the industry that they work in, by the specific company that you're looking for. And it's the same as we talked about with your profile. You want to make sure that these things are strategic. You don't want to be, you know, looking all across the country for directors of operations and education because there are countless numbers of schools and universities all across our country that you may be contacting, and that might not be pertinent for you. So we got a chance to hang out with Baton Rouge a little bit. Barry, do you have any that you'd like to look at?
Not this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've still got some time. Are there any other searches that we'd like to look into? Okay, that's fine. We're going to go into, there are a couple of resources that I'm going to be providing to you that are specific to search. But again, as I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn does offer the Boolean search. So it's just, Google does the same thing. So it's a way for you to narrow down your searches using different symbols. So if you put things in quotes, it will be an exact phrase. If you put things in parentheses, it allows you to do complex search. So you can choose human resources and customer service and or and not. So I will be giving you all this form. Once we're off of this call, you'll get a copy of this, and there's one other document that I'll be sending over to you as well. But this Boolean search is the same for Google, and anything else that offers these features, this is a standard search search parameter kind of breakdown. So you can print this out and hang it next to your desk and kind of always have it to refer back to. But it's a great tool that you can use both for this LinkedIn search and any other places that offer more specific searches. There's also a great document that's put together by LinkedIn talking about social selling. It's a nice 30-page document, and it's going to go over a bunch of really cool information for you. So why we do it, and more about how to do it, so what the values are, who owns it, some case studies, how you can optimize social selling. And this is really where you're going to start honing in. And this is going to talk about social selling more from a corporate perspective, but there are absolutely more personalized things that we can talk about, like we have here with LinkedIn. And it does help us get over the hump. I know that it's difficult sometimes because we're dealing with people who may have been in our industries for decades, and what we've been doing with sales for a very long time works effectively. So why would we do something different? And the fact of the matter is that this is just another tool for us. Social media, LinkedIn, all of these things are just another tool for us to utilize. And the way that I kind of look at it is that one of the other concerns I see that people come up with is that they're afraid of having their personal information out there. And really, LinkedIn specifically isn't your personal information, it's your business information. And it wouldn't be any more than what you would want to put on your business card. And that being said, you can narrow it down so only your business card information is on there. So it's like saying that you don't want to give out your business cards because you don't want people to reach out to you. So you don't ever want that mentality. As sales managers, we should be networking and we should be out there connecting with potential clients and other professionals, and this is just another tool for us to be able to do that, just like the advent of the business card. This is just a digital version of that. But this whole guide will go through some other cool things, maintaining those relationships and all that stuff. So, any other questions?
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. So to wrap up, remember that there's a connection cycle. LinkedIn and these other social platforms can seem like a lot. They seem like a lot for me, and I do it all the time. So being able to break it down into sections and say, okay, this is me connecting with a particular person. My next step is going to be seeing what groups and interests they might have that would also be beneficial to me. Then I'm going to actually engage in those groups and find more people to connect with, and then I will connect with them, and the cycle continues. We talked about it from the very beginning and carried it all the way through, that the more strategic you are in the groups, interests, and people that you're connected with, the better your network will be, and the easier it will be when you start using this tool for lead generation. Use your current contacts, both on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn, to connect with and to use them to connect with other people. And again, as I mentioned, additional resources are available. So after this call is over, I'll be sending out the recorded link as well as those two documents, the one about the Boolean search and the one about social selling. So in closing, you can all take yourselves off mute except for Lacey, who's permanently on mute. How have you connected on LinkedIn before? I know that a number of you do have LinkedIn profiles, but what have you traditionally been using LinkedIn to connect for?
Emily, this is Barry. Two quick things, and I apologize. I was just screwed out to go for a lunch appointment. Everyone who is using LinkedIn with a password that has that password with another account, I'm not sure if you saw the breach with LinkedIn earlier this week. But it was a huge breach in the passwords. The second thing, we use it quite a bit for research, and there is a tool to have your settings so the individual does not know you're looking at their profile. It's sometimes good to turn that off so you can do as much research as you need to and then do a plan of attack in formulating some other kind of action to get your first impression to the individual. So
okay.
I just want to throw that out there.
Thanks. Really great point, Barry. I'll piggyback on that. With email, with passwords, we always want to follow the same processes that our brands recommend, change them regularly, upper and lowercase, alphanumeric. And if OnQ or MGS or whatever system you use is making you reset your password every 30 days, there's a reason for it. So try to do that on all your platforms. And then with the privacy settings, for those of you who are a little curious about that, I'm going to pop into it really quickly, but we did talk about it on the last training. So if you'd like to review it, you absolutely can. So up in the top right-hand corner, I have my privacy and settings. And that's where you would go to be able to update your account information, including your password, as well as privacy, meaning who can see different parts of your profile, who can see when you're searching. All of that information will be right here in those privacy settings. So very good point, Barry. I appreciate that. Anything else from the other properties? How have you been connecting on LinkedIn prior to now?
Emily, this is Tiffany and Gail from the DoubleTree in Wichita. I use it a lot with, like, in connection with Noland, and when I find leads from Noland and researching the different people that you can connect with. So that's kind of a way that we've learned to use them in together.
Okay, cool. Now, what do you find is the most, Barry had mentioned that as well about using it for search, just to kind of research people. What have you found, like what sorts of information do you usually come across in a LinkedIn profile that's helpful to you?
Just like what their job title is, and well, in Noland sometimes it'll tell you like what the last event was that they booked in, and then you can go and research the person in general so you can know who you're talking to a little bit more before you make that call to make the connection. So I really use Noland and LinkedIn hand in hand just to get leads.
So again, we're taking another sales tool that we have at our disposal and using this to support it as opposed to using it separately from. Cool, that's a really good point. And I'm sorry, you said who's on the call from your property?
This is Tiffany and Gail.
Okay, and you were both on the call last week as well, correct?
Yep.
Cool. I thought I recognized that voice. All right, well, thank you both for being on the call. What about everybody else? How about you ladies in Cleveland? How have you used LinkedIn previously?
Emily, we use it a lot of different ways to try to find other hotels who have worked with different groups. Also, just to kind of get, like we were trying to do the pharmaceutical before, trying to find some contact people for it. So, but you've given us some ideas of other ways to be able to utilize it.
Cool. Now, I know that we had talked about using it all in conjunction with the other tools that we have. Are there any tips or best practices that anybody wants to share about using it in conjunction with another sales tool? No other tips? Now, Tiffany, you had mentioned using Noland for when those leads are coming in. Can you input additional information into Noland?
Yeah, once you've researched the client or made contact with the client, you can add notes into Noland saying that it's like turn it from a prospect to like you've contacted them, and then say what client you contacted and what their role is. So if you find another person to contact that's not listed in Noland, I would say that's a good place to put it.
So like an alternate person. So this may be the person that you connected with in Noland, but you may have found on LinkedIn that there are other people at the company that might also be good contacts.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Okay, cool. So you put them as alternates?
Yeah. And then you can turn in Noland, you can turn it from a prospect to like a tentative, and it's a good way to track your leads through there.
Awesome. There's one other tip that I'm going to say that goes along in conjunction with that from the LinkedIn side. Now this is particularly helpful if you're utilizing multiple lead resources in other areas of sales. It could be a recommendation from a business, it could be whatever it is. Within your relationship section, when you view somebody's profile, you can add a note or a reminder or a tag. So if you want to set a reminder to wish them a happy work anniversary, and that may not be listed on their LinkedIn profile, or you want to set a reminder after their business has actualized with you, and you want to be able to say on LinkedIn, oh, thanks so much for the great event, thought everything was fantastic, can't wait to see you again, publicly, then you can set reminders for that. And the notes are helpful as well. This was a lead from Nolan, our other contacts are this, this, and this. Depending on if you're using multiple other places, it's just one other place to add that additional information. I have also used, I'm terrible at remembering like birthdays and codes and other things like that. So in my contacts on Outlook or Apple or wherever, there's a note section on your contacts there as well. So you can add that LinkedIn profile. You can add any anniversaries or birthdays that that person might have, and I find that very helpful when having conversations with people. Like I remember that Kathy also likes pens because I have it now listed in her profile so that I don't ever forget that, like, you know, if something special is coming up, I go, oh, you know what, I should get Kathy, I should get her a nice pen. So those sorts of things that are really helpful to kind of remember. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, reflections about our call today? I'm going to slide over and see if Lacey had anything to say, and she did not. Okay, well, in that case, we do have another version of the recording that will be going on this afternoon. It's the same thing, just a different group of people. It will also be recorded. I really appreciate you all taking the time to be on today. I hope you got a lot of information out of it. If you have any questions after this call is over, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I am more than happy to help. And I do just want to do a quick roll after I end the recording, just to make sure I didn't miss anybody. So if you want to hang out for just a couple minutes, if you popped in a little bit later, I just want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. So thank you all. And if you did check in with me earlier in the call and I did read your name off, you're welcome to go and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Emily. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you all. You too.